Hello, hello. How are you? I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to Life Trials by EAC with your favorite political analyst, Playboy model, independent broker, everything else that just wraps up into that. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm super enormously grateful. As you guys know, I haven't done an episode in a while, so we're definitely going to get back into the rhythm of things. It is amazing to have you guys back. Hello. I hope everybody's doing amazing. Hi. It's been a minute. Thank you again. And, we're going to get things started. I have a very special person here today. Oh, we have a little bit of an echo. We don't want that. We have a very special guest here today, live in studio. Real estate broker, agent, mogul, Dylan Keuning.
Yes. Dylan Keuning.
Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
And he is definitely an amazing person. I'm so grateful to have you here today live in the studio.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me. This is such a cool setup that you have here.
Thank you. It's just here in my home. We start from the bottom, and then we're just trying to grow.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I'm really excited for this today.
Well, thank you again for coming to discuss in detail your life trials, experiences, your expertise in the industry of real estate. As we all know, it's extremely empowering to have these guests come on the show because they do give honest, direct, and accountable advice that I really, really appreciate. So, I'm definitely just going to give Dylan the floor because, as everybody knows, real estate is one of the hottest markets to be in today's world. As everybody knows, we are just dealing with a lot. So I really just want to know, who is Dylan and your background as a real estate broker and your success that you've had in such a short period of time. And by the way, Dylan is only 35 years old.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Well, I definitely don't feel 35. It's crazy how fast the time's gone by. But my name is Dylan Keuning. I am an immigrant from South Africa, from Johannesburg. I moved to South Florida when I was about 19 years old, I believe. And I actually came over here on a student, well, actually it's a work visa called an H-2B visa. And I was only supposed to be here for 7 months. And I was working in a restaurant and a hotel, and that's pretty much all I did. Before I even got to the United States, I had spent a lot of time in the hospitality industry. And then, I met my wife actually shortly after moving here. I probably met her 2 or 3 weeks after moving to the United States. So I met her pretty early on. And then I've always had a love for real estate since I was a kid. I was an early teen, or maybe not even a teenager yet, and I would tell my mom and dad, hey, I want you to go and drive me in this certain area, on the hillside, so I can go and stare at these mansions on the hill, and so I could pretty much obsess about it. I have a brain that kind of does that instinctually. I obsess about things, and then I think that that's probably part of why I'm able to manifest things into my life, because I can concentrate on things for extended periods of time if I enjoy it. So real estate is something that I really, really do enjoy, and I got my license at a very early age. I think I was about 22 or 23 when I got my license. That was 12.
That's young. That's super young.
12 years ago, right? So I was like this baby, with a real estate license, trying to help people buy and sell and rent. And it was a good learning experience for me back then, because I got to kind of learn all of the big mistakes that a lot of agents tend to make. I learned that kind of early on in my career. So I think that just kind of all of that and learning in a little bit of a downturn in the market, because I got my license in 2010, and at that stage, everyone is pretty much leaving the real estate industry, right? So for
that was right after the crash in 2008.
2000, it kind of started around 2006, I'd say. But yeah, by 2008, that was when the media and everything, they were really talking about it a lot. So they kind of made things worse, let's say, because there was a lot of fear, doubt, and uncertainty, and people people felt like they needed to because there was going to be this massive recession and all of that, and then things kind of bounced back pretty quickly, right? By 2012 already, prices were already starting to go up again, and the inventory levels were starting to go down, and that was already kind of shifting the market already. So, it was maybe a 6-year period that it took all of that to happen, and then for us to kind of build up, and now we're kind of at the height again of a new real estate cycle, and we don't know when this one is gonna kind of stabilize and maybe have a correction. So we'll kind of have to see how things play out as time passes.
Wow. Like, so you've been doing technically real estate pretty much your like entire adult life, like.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah.
Ever since you were born, you felt like you were born to sell houses.
Somewhat.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I've always been interested. I think when I was a kid, I wanted to be more of an architect, but I just didn't really love school enough for me to want to go and spend time studying to get an architect degree. But I do love design. I do love. Obviously, I love sales. I love working with people. I love building. I love using my imagination. So yeah, real estate is definitely a good fit for me because it encompasses a lot of those qualities.
I think that you have done so much in such a short period of time, and I think that a lot of people can see, that ability to overcome so much, especially migrating from a third world country like Africa, and like from being from South Africa, which obviously a lot of people listen to your accent and they probably don't even know where to begin there because it's just so different. But one of my main questions to you, because that was something that really empowered me as an individual when I met you, was that how you overcame so much adversity and obstacles in your personal life to achieve such a surmount of success. Like, can you kind of further detail that? Like, how much adversity did you face when you came from South Africa and then moving from South Africa, Boston, and then South Florida?
Right. Okay. So yeah, my wife is from Boston, and I met her here. So she was actually going to the University of Miami, and I met her again. I think I met her 2 or 3 weeks after moving here, and I've done a lot of traveling back and forth to Boston just because she's from Boston. But the adversity that I faced in my life, and I don't really ever really talk about it with anybody because it's kind of like a personal thing. But I've been through a lot of things in my life. When I was a kid, my biological father passed away from a heroin overdose or something equivalent of that, essentially. And I think that and I didn't have like a super stable childhood home setting. There was a lot of fighting and things like that going on. So I think that, a lot of those factors basically made me, I didn't really feel like I fitted in, and I wasn't like a super popular kid in high school. I wasn't also like a nobody either. I think that I was able to have friends and things, but my biggest obstacle was paying attention in school, and I think maybe a little bit of a troubled home life was a part of that. But it was mainly because I have a really, I struggle with, let's say, being able to focus and pay attention for long periods of time. This is, and then when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with something called ADD. All right.
But you were never medicated like I have been for the last 15 years, you would say, because I have severe ADHD and everybody knows that shit.
So actually, no, I think I want to say it was about 8, maybe I was 8 or 9, something like that. And they did actually, they diagnosed me with this, and I think pretty much all the kids back then were getting that, if you just wanted to running around, they said you had ADHD. But I think I legitimately had it. I do have a very, very hard time paying attention, especially in subjects where I don't really have a lot of care for, let's say. If I didn't really love it, I'm just gonna completely ignore it. Science, biology, math class, those are the kind of subjects that I just didn't care about at all. And I feel really sorry for those teachers of mine nowadays, looking back, because I was very disruptive in class, and It wasn't really my fault. It was just because I just didn't really want to be there. I'd already, by the time I was 14, I pretty much already checked out of school completely. And I'd already decided that I was already kind of focusing on my life of what I was going to be doing out of school. So I couldn't really wait to leave school for me. And I was very much an underachieving D, C student. Maybe I got a couple of B's in some subjects that I enjoyed. And maybe every once in a while I got an A, but then my parents would be really, really happy about that. But no, I mean, a lot of people would say you're going to be working at McDonald's, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that, work at the car wash. People would joke about that. And I think maybe teachers were saying that to me to kind of motivate me, but they didn't really understand that that's not what motivated me. What motivates me, and again, like when I was a kid, one of the first things that I remember like starting to obsess about was martial arts as a kid. Me and actually my best friend at the time, his name's Tony. He lives in London now. We would watch all of these old Chinese films and everything.
Oh, wow.
And they would be doing
like that one with Chris, what's that guy's name? Chris Rock or something?
I think it's Chris Tucker, and maybe it's Chris Tucker.
Oh.
Yeah, Rush Hour is probably the movie
there
that I'm thinking
go.
of. But
Shit like that?
with Jackie Chan, yes. So Jackie Chan is actually one of our mine and Tony's favorite actors. He's excellent, and he had studied kung fu, which was a style that him and I had studied in South Africa. We actually were part of the first Shaolin Kung Fu temple in the southern hemisphere, and this Asian monk came all the way from China to come and open up this school, and it was amazing. It was on like, I don't know, I'm going to say probably 30 acres of land or something like that. And there was a temple, and it was fantastic. So, Tony and I, we were pretty much living out our dream because we were just, we were kids thinking about like watching these movies. And then all of a sudden this temple opened up, and it was close enough to us that we could go to it. And so that was one of the first things that I remember like really geeking out about was being able to learn martial arts, obviously, because you get to defend yourself, but also it looks really cool. And at that age, I was like, oh, girls are going to think this is cool now that I know how to defend myself, that maybe I could attract a good-looking girlfriend or something. So there was another aspect to that as well. So that's kind of like how my brain works because of that diagnosis of the ADD. I focus on certain things, and then when I focus on these things that I enjoy, like the martial arts, I get to excel in it in a way that a lot of other people may not find that same level of focus on,
Well, I just needed to get a picture there for Instagram. Hi,
Perfect.
Instagram. Trying to sneak it in there.
Mm.
Sneakeroo. Well, I just think that like that was something that really meant a lot to me when we met, was that you've overcome so much adversity in such a like profound, like grime hard industry, and something that really a lot of people talk about in today's like society, especially about real estate, is that looking at purchasing a home is no longer the American dream. And that's something that I feel I need some emphasis on from your expertise. Like, what do you think is going to happen in today's market with the outcome of this bubble that we all know is to come? Like, I know that you're not a genie and shit, but people are dying to fucking know, like, what is really happening right now? Like, you know what I'm saying? And why are houses being priced like this crazy? And, because I have no idea.
So I'd love to share some insight into that. So basically anything that causes, what causes a market to fluctuate? Well, the simple answer is supply and demand, right? Anytime there's a large supply of anything, right? You have a large supply, there's a lot of selection. What happens? Price goes down, right? And if you have a little supply, right, and it's a commodity that's really, really hot, right, what's going to happen? The price is going to go up because we have a lot of people all trying to buy the same thing. So I can give you an example. I'm working with several buyers. Even though I am a very successful real estate agent, I still help a lot of first-time home buyers. I help people list, their first property that they bought for sale. I don't only do a luxury real estate, which a lot of people got kind of a little bit confused about me. And they're like, oh, I would have listed with you, but you only sell $20 million homes. And I'm like, yeah, I would have listed yours $500,000 condo, whatever. But you know, I think that that's a little bit of sometimes people kind of misinterpret me. So yeah, I sell and list, and even I help people with rentals sometimes as well, especially, you know, if they're looking to sell and then maybe rent for a year to see if they like the area or something like that. So I'm involved in a capacity in real estate where I would say that I pretty much do everything. That's residential. I also do commercial real estate as well. We've listed med spas for sale. I'm working with people that are looking to buy restaurants. I'm working with people that want to buy warehouses. So yeah, I pretty much do it all. And yeah, right now the market it's hot. You know, like like that song. It's hot. That's exactly how it is right now, especially here in South Florida. We've always had a very, very hot market. I'm sure it's pretty understandable to understand why South Florida is a hot market. Between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, obviously, we got beautiful beaches. We've got amazing hotels. It does get a little hot and humid here in the summertime, but the rest of the year, it's pretty much an ideal climate, especially when it's like the middle of winter. So we also have a lot of transient guests over here in the wintertime. So long story short, just to answer your question, right? Why is the real estate market so crazy right now? Well, just to kind of go back to what I said earlier, we're experiencing a massive inventory shortage, right?
Wow.
We don't have a lot of properties for sale, and it's pretty much every price range. It's the starting price range right now here in South Florida. What is the date today? It's March.
Today is the 11th.
The 11th of okay.
It's like $500,000 you need.
11th
Basic
May
shit.
2022. Right now in South Florida, if you were buying a single family home, let's say a started single family home, and you didn't need to put a ton of work into it, it's pretty much starting at around $500,000 today, right? That's what you would need to spend here in South Florida to get
It's not even reasonable anymore.
A little 3 or 4 bedroom home, and that would be in a pretty decent community and so forth. With a decent school district and all of that. So yeah, it's very, very difficult. But the main thing is that we have a lot of people that are also migrating from other states. So we have a lot of people coming from the Northeast, and when people like New York, people from New York are moving here.
Go back to New York and up there, please. Thank you very much.
Yes, I agree with that sentiment as well. So when you're coming from New York, we know that New York has a very, very aggressive real estate market as well, and their properties tend to be a lot more expensive than what ours used to be, right? And the same thing in California, right? You're buying a little bungalow in LA for over $1 million, and you're buying maybe a 1 or 2 bedroom condo in the city of New York, and it's probably going to be over $1 million as well. So when those people are selling their real estate over there and they're selling it for $1 million plus, they come in here with $1 million plus typically, or maybe more than that in cash. So this is also one of the reasons, right? They're pushing up our market even more because now they have cash. They're outbidding all of the offers that we have with financing, whether it's FHA or conventional or VA.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
So that's what's happening, right?
Wow.
And so that $500,000 house that somebody's trying to buy for half a million, right?
Yeah.
And they don't.
I know. I gotta put it. I just put it like that because it's just like that's a lot of money.
So but this is
for like
this is what's happening. So you have a family, right? They're trying to buy a house. They're trying to be in a good school district, but you've got Joe from New York, right? With $1 million in his pocket, right? And then he's like, well, whatever. I'm just gonna go and offer $600,000 cash, right? Coming $100,000 over asking. And he typically ends up being the winning bidder on those kind of real estate transactions. So that's what's happening today. People are coming in $50,000, $100,000 over the asking price to get the property. Yeah, it's happening.
That's shocking.
Yeah,
that's
no,
really,
really
shocking.
is.
Actually, I didn't know how this worked, and just to hear that is really sad.
Yeah, no, of course. And so this is why I'm here today, to kind of educate people why you need to have a really, really good real estate agent in your corner. You need to have somebody who's very, very educated on the market. You need to have a very good lender as well, right? So, and then you kind of have to have a good team together, because when you send in an offer, you got to have that lender calling that listing agent being like, hey, our buyers really want to get this house, because typically we have 12 other people or more trying to buy that same house as well. They're all putting in offers, and they all have to come in over asking to try to buy the property.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
intense.
It's crazy. So that's the single family home market. The condo market and the townhouse market isn't as aggressive yet,
Oh, wow.
but we only have a half a month of inventory right now, basically in Broward County. What does that mean? It means that it would take about 15 days. If we didn't list another property today, it would take 15 days to sell every single home that is currently for sale, basically under $800,000. Any single family home under $800,000, if we didn't list another property tomorrow, it would take 2 weeks to sell everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Nuts. So that's why
Fucking nuts.
That's why we got to keep getting new listings, so that hopefully we can get a little bit more inventory, and we can hopefully the prices will stabilize a little bit.
Well, that's tough. So there's a bubble coming, no? Is that going to be another 2008? And just to kind of
look, I mean, I think that it's a good question. That's a good question, and it's a loaded question because I don't really know the answer.
I know,
but I would say that some markets are definitely going to be experiencing what you would consider recession-like symptoms, right? I don't think that really strong hot markets like South Florida, where we don't have a lot of space to build more build more buildings or build more communities, I don't think that we're going to be seeing as much of a drop, let's say.
oh, because the demand and it's always there.
So that's the thing. It always comes down to that's why fundamental principle number one is always supply and demand. In order for the prices to come down, we have to have more supply than the number of buyers in the market. That's the only way that we can really have prices stabilize and come down significantly. But the way I see it, I mean, I think that obviously them raising interest rates and things like that is definitely going to start to box out a lot of buyers. And I think that the people that are going to probably get hit the most are the people that need the financing. So the people, FHA, and people that don't have a very, very high down payment on a conventional loan, those are the people that are probably going to get hit the most. So I'm going to say basically 700,000 and under. If that's pretty much your price range.
Oh my God.
Yeah, if that's your price range, that's probably going to be the market that we're going to start to see maybe a little bit of a, maybe we're going to start to see the prices coming down a little bit. But again, there's another very, very important factor is the interest rates, right? Like a couple of years ago, you could have got an interest rate in the 3s, right? Or even lower. I saw people getting locked in at 2.75 or even less. And you'll probably, on Instagram, lenders will say, oh, I was doing loans at 1% or whatever. But, those are very, very special kind of loans. But anyways, I would say that your average loan, you could have gotten them under 3, comfortably saying that without sounding crazy. And now, if you have good credit, you're having an interest rate in about the mid-5s today. And again, this is May 11th, right? So the way things are looking is that they're expecting the interest rate to continue to go up, right? So they're thinking it's going to go into the 7s and in the 8s. Now, what does that mean? It means that if we don't have a lot of inventory and the interest rate goes up 2 or 3 points from where it's at today, that same property where you were paying, let's say hypothetically it's $3,000 a month, right? Even if the property's value doesn't go up another cent, right? Let's just pretend that it's not going up. Just that difference in that 2% interest rate, it's making like a $400 or $500 difference a month, at a 5.5% today versus an 8% interest rate, for instance, right? You're paying $400 extra for the exact same thing. And that property is probably going to go up in value as well, right? Between now and if you wait a few months, which is, I think, the question that you're asking, when is the bubble going to pop?
Not much for down here.
Well, I just don't think that down here in South Florida we're going to see much of that. I think that the people that
makes sense.
I think that the people that are going to get hit again, I think that it's going to be people that if there are any kind of layoffs and things like that, those are people that may potentially
middle class blue collar Americans are going to suffer. That's the reality of it.
I think that and I think that that's unfortunately the way that it has been. If we look at history, those are usually the people that end up getting the
Yeah.
They end up they're usually the people that end up getting screwed, unfortunately, when these kind of thing happen. But
survival of the fittest.
This is the reason why we're doing this podcast, essentially, is so that we can kind of figure out what we can do to try to create a hedge against this inflation and potentially, an upcoming a recession or potentially even a depression in the economy. So, yeah, that's kind of what we're hoping to cover a little bit later on in the podcast.
Well, something that I see a lot, especially in, working in selling life insurance, is it's not really emphasized to protect your mortgage. How important is it to protect your mortgage? Can you at least emphasize on that aspect just to some capacity? Like, with going through that entire process, there's so many people that I've encountered that refuse to protect their mortgage. And what I've seen now is an uptick in people getting bigger loans now, almost taking out an entire loan on the property value itself. So someone will buy a house that's like $550, they'll take out a mortgage that's like $450. How does that even like?
So what I think that you're talking about, what you're referring to, is essentially they're getting like a line of credit out of the equity that they have in the property. That's what it sounds like, what you're talking about. So,
and then that's the mortgage.
So yeah, it would essentially become a mortgage because you need to now pay that loan off, right? When we're talking about a line of credit.
So is that a new thing now? Like,
so yeah, and this is something that I wouldn't suggest to anybody to ever
because
do that.
Technically the bank owns your entire house and you're just paying them for it, right?
Well, the bank, nobody really tells you this, but the bank owns your entire house until you make that final mortgage payment. Yeah, they have a lien on the property, essentially called a promissory note, which a lot of people, we're getting a little technical over here, but essentially they're saying that for whatever the term of your loan is, sometimes it's 15 years, sometimes it's 30, that until you've paid you've got to pay every single payment on time, every single month, at least the minimum amount. There used to be penalties if you try to pay more, because then you would lower the amount of interest, right? It's all about the bank and their interest. That's really what it's all about. But yeah, essentially, you don't own that house until you've made that final payment. And then even after that, you don't own the house because you're still paying property taxes every single year. and there's so many older people, I've seen this happen, where, they've been in the house for 30 or 40 years. Let's say they bought the house at like $100,000, right? In the 1970s. And that would have even been a lot of money then. They're getting valued today on what the value of the property is today, right? So let's say that their taxes for the whole year back then would have been, for argument's sake, $200 a year, okay? And now that same property, if it's, let's say now they're saying it's worth $750,000, your taxes would be roughly $6,000-7,000 a year, maybe a little bit more depending on the city. Let's say $8,000 a year. So we went from $200 a year in 1970 to now being $8,000 a year. And if you don't pay your property taxes, you get a lien on your property, and essentially the state can come and take it from you, right? So these are all, again, even if you've paid every single payment on the loan, it's still not your property because you're still responsible for those property taxes. And if you live in a condominium or in a townhouse or any association, then you've got to be making sure that you pay your HOA or your condo fees every single month or quarter or however they structure it. Yeah. That's
just crazy because, I deal with a lot of those type of people in, the industry of life insurance, and a lot of people don't understand that, just because you've owned the house for X amount of years and stuff like that, if it's not like paid off fully, the bank can come still have your house if you died or you're like terminally ill. And I think it's just really important for people to understand the like ability to pay off your house in a quicker time span than just this whole 30-year. Okay, yeah, it sounds so like wonderful and great, but in reality, it's best to pay that off quick. No.
So yeah, just kind of touching back on what I'd mentioned a few minutes ago. Right now, and basically after the last crash, they kind of restructured the way that the loans are written so that basically they can't get back into that predatory lending that caused the last housing crisis, right? So now you pretty much have to be a little bit more qualified. And that's also another reason why I don't think we're going to have a super duper massive crash like we did the last time either, because people have to be qualified. But I still see every once in a while here on Facebook or whatever, oh, I just got so and so approved for, a $500,000 house, and they have like a 400 and something or 500 and something credit score. I'm like, I don't know if that's the kind of person that should be buying a house, because, again, this is the person that's most likely going to end up getting foreclosed on sooner rather than later. And then just kind of going back to that last point, when you have your mortgage, you just obviously have to go through your mortgage documents and everything. And there's something called the prepayment clause, right? In there, essentially, what you want to do is you want to make principal only payments, right? So you make your minimum payment for $2,500 a month, right, which includes your taxes and your insurance. And then if you have, let's say you did come into some money or something, and you want to start lowering, because this is what ends up happening, you're lowering the amount of time that it takes to pay off your mortgage, essentially saving you a lot of time and the dollars that you would have had to pay in the interest, right? So this is what you're doing. You pay that minimum mortgage payment of $2,500, then, for instance sake, you make another $10,000, you make it to the bank the same way that you would, and you say that this is for principal only. When you're doing that principal only payment, then it should work out this way, that the next payment that you do, your mortgage payment should be a little bit less than what it was the month before that. So that's the smart way to do it, and that's what I would encourage if you guys did come into some money or anything like that.
So, I mean, it's just I know it's so stressful. I bet, like, I know that you don't have a lot of time, but one of the last few questions I definitely wanted to get into was your new venture in cryptocurrency. I don't know anything about cryptocurrency and how that plays a role in the real estate market. And if you kind of just emphasize what it is, how it plays a role in the real estate market, and how you've made a lot of success in just such a short period of time, since you said 2015.
Yeah, so I guess, for a lot of people, 7 years would be a very long time in the cryptocurrency world. I kind of got into it by accident. My next door neighbor, when I was still living in Miami, he was Jeff. He's a really good guy. He would have these parties and stuff, and he was a very geeky guy, and he like pretty much ran up like this crazy sound system, and like his house was like a computer basically. But he was a very, very, very nice guy, and he would have these parties and stuff, and naturally my wife and I would go over. So in 2015, actually I think it was maybe even as early as 2014, one of Jeff's friends, I forget his name, I wish I could give him credit for it right now, but I forget his name. He was like, listen, man, like Bitcoin, this is like the answer to everything. Like, and I was just trying to find fault with it. I was just like, I just don't see how this is working. At that time, Bitcoin would have been like $200 a Bitcoin, or maybe less. Today, actually it's crashed, and today it's at $30,000 a Bitcoin.
Oh my God.
So let me, because because of my ADD, I geek out about this kind of stuff because it's so interesting.
Probably needed just one whole episode. No, I'm just talking about cryptocurrency.
I could pretty much talk about crypto for an entire hour. I do charge consultations for crypto advising, and I have people pay me in different ways. My chiropractor paid me in like free chiro lessons. Shout out Dr. Adam, love you, buddy. And
that's awesome.
And then depending on basically how much you're looking to invest, how much you're comfortable. Obviously, any kind of investment's going to be risky, right? I'm not telling people go and take a line of credit out on your house for $100,000 and go buy Bitcoin with it. That's not what I'm saying. You've got to be very, very strategic. Timing is everything. Actually today being May 11th, 2022, this morning, there was a massive correction in the market. A lot of cryptocurrencies were on sale this morning. I probably put about $5,000 into buying some really, really good stuff. I'm actually going to mention them. So my top picks that I'm invested in, except for Bitcoin, I have a lot of Ethereum. I have a lot of Solana. This morning I went crazy and I increased my position from 300 Luna to now I have 5,000 Luna. I bought it when it was under $2 this morning, and then it already went over $2 before we started this. So hopefully that was the right plan. Hopefully it doesn't go down more. But I've been pretty strategic about this over the last 7 years. My whole strategy is very, very simple. It's obviously it's a long-term thing, right? You can't expect that you're going to go and invest 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 and expect that you're going to go and triple your money in 6 months. That's an unrealistic expectation. And I want everybody to know that that's an unrealistic expectation. You need to have the expectation that this is a very volatile market because it's still in its infancy. All right, Bitcoin basically was only created in 2009, and basically it really only started getting traded like around 2011. So it's only 11 years old today, and it went from being worth a few cents Bitcoin to now being worth $30,000 per Bitcoin. The reason why Bitcoin has value is there's a number of reasons. The first reason is because it's the only real digital currency that actually exists today. You know, yes, we have US dollars, and yes, we have all kinds of other fiat currencies that are numbers on a computer, and they do exist in a digital form, but it really is all just a giant scam, actually, because, and people can go and research this if they want it. If you see, since the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank, which was in 1913 until today, the value of the United States dollar has decreased at a rate of about 99%. All right. So, and this is through something called inflation. All right. So what Bitcoin is essentially a deflationary asset. All right. Deflationary asset, it means that as the value of the dollar, as the dollar's losing value, the value of Bitcoin's essentially increasing in value. And although it doesn't look like that if you're looking at a Bitcoin daily chart or a weekly or a monthly chart, you've got to kind of zoom out and you've got to look at it and see what has Bitcoin done over an 11-year period. And you see, okay, well, it was worth, you know, you could have bought Bitcoin as low as 10 cents back in 2011. And now with it being worth $30,000, the reason is it's opposite to our fiat currency, where, you know, our government is constantly creating reasons to spend trillions and trillions of dollars each time they create a stimulus package or each time they print in money.
Yeah.
Well, what happens? We're losing more and more purchasing power. That's what inflation is. So, again, I mean, I know I can go on and on and on and on about this. There's only 21 million Bitcoin in existence. There's only ever going to be 21 million. We've only mined about 19 million Bitcoin. That means there's only 2 million Bitcoin left to be mined. Each year that passes, there's going to be less and less Bitcoin. This is what's creating the demand. You see, it's the same concept as real estate, right? There's only 21 million. When the millionaires figure this out, when everybody figures out that it's a deflationary asset and they figure out that it is actual real money, it is the thing that we've been looking for, as it like it's complete transparency, right? You can go on a website and you can see every single Bitcoin transaction that's ever occurred. You don't have that transparency in our banking world. In fact, our banking system is so broken that when we have the banks using predatory lending to crash the economy, what happens? Americans get kicked out of their homes. What happens to the bankers? Nothing happened to the bankers, right? They actually got bonuses, which were funded by the taxpayers. So what does that mean?
Yeah,
it means
crazy.
It means that the entire political system in the United States is run by two industries.
Yeah.
The first is the bankers, and the second is the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah. No, and that could be a whole other conversation, like, for us to have. But I know that your time is like pressed.
No, of course,
Sure.
I understand that, and I don't want to say anything, especially about big pharma that could get me killed. So don't worry, guys.
No, you're amazing. Like, I know that a lot of people that like watch this show really are just your average American people that just want good, straightforward, transparent advice on just very important aspects of a person's life
Yeah.
something as like your home and where you live and where you ground yourself and your children and your family and
Yeah.
where you just grow as a human being. So
And I don't really think that I got a chance to kind of speak about this in the beginning, but I think, when you were talking about like how did I overcome the adversity, well, I think that the very, very first thing for me is having goals, right? Is like that's the first thing, and you've got to have goals. You've got to have long-term goals. You've got to have short-term goals. You got to have goals that seem ridiculous to people, and they've got to be big. My goal next year is to go up into the Georgia mountains. I already own 2 properties up there, and I'm gonna go and build some custom homes, and they're gonna look beautiful, and they're gonna be technologically advanced on the inside as well. And this is my new dream, and I constantly have to have dreams because this is what motivates me and propels me to keep going. And if I didn't have that, I'd probably just be stuck in the same place. I have had my own addictions in life. I've been, I'm an alcoholic. Thankfully, right now, I've been sober for a bit, and I'm thankful for that. And I've also had, addictions to other drugs, which could have, things could have gone the wrong way if I didn't make the right decision, right? But a couple months ago, I actually took some psilocybin mushrooms, and it was fantastic for me. Like I felt like, I'm not really like trying to encourage drug use here. That's not really my goal. But I just think that for me, using psilocybin mushrooms in a controlled setting, like I got chocolate bars from a buddy Phil of mine. He was in Cali. I think he's in Arizona now, but really, really good guy. And he was kind of swearing by them. He was like, look, I'm the same way. I've also got like a scatterbrain. And he was saying that it was really, really helping him with his focus and everything. And so I was kind of microdosing with them. And I really felt some like miraculous is probably the best word I can use to describe the before using them, basically while I was microdosing for a couple of weeks, and then the effects that I have felt after, now that I no longer, haven't used them in some time already. I can honestly say that like I'm a lot more clear-headed. I'm feeling genuinely happy. Like I suffered from depression for the longest time. And when you suffer from depression, there's nothing that you can do. Like you can try to take a happy pill and whatever, and I've done that too, but it's like you can't really get rid of it completely. And I felt like this is the first time, if I'm being honest with myself, that I felt pure happiness and like ultimate joy for like I probably my whole life. And it's
Wow.
like, I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And I have been a very happy person. I'm super successful. I'm married. I've got a beautiful wife, got a beautiful kid. I have all these things.
Yes, you do.
And I've got millions in assets. But that doesn't make you a happy person. And actually, I had a crazy thing that happened last week, actually. The craziest thing. I think it's actually a good thing that I mentioned this before we wrap it up, because it's going to kind of end on this note.
Tell them.
This is one of the craziest things that happened. I saw this homeless guy, and I kind of thought that I recognized him. And then he had asked somebody for something, and as soon as he opened up his mouth, I was like, oh my gosh, I know this guy. I recognized that accent. And then I saw his face, and I was like, oh my goodness, I know this guy. This guy used to be a multimillionaire, now homeless, right? Now homeless,
Oh my God.
multimillionaire. This guy let me list his property. I don't want to say the building because I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want anybody to figure it out. But
No.
this is one of the nicest buildings in Miami.
Oh my God.
And when you rock up to the building, there's only Maybach, Rolls Royce,
Yeah.
Ferrari. Those like supercars, basically, right? And this was actually my very first $1 million listing, so it's so profound, actually. And I saw this guy, and then I was just like, wow. But he had made the listing very, very difficult for me. He was going through a divorce. He had made a lot of money, like in import-export of high fashion, right? And it was just so shocking for me, not not only I don't think it was even the fact that he was homeless, but it was just the fact that this guy who was once one of the richest people in the world, only a couple of decades ago, he owned properties in Monte Carlo and in London, that how he could have gone from there to being homeless. And that was like a earth-shattering moment for me. So, and I think that that's also just something that really makes me want to just stay sober
and stay like aligned with your goals and perspective.
Stay aligned with my goals and my perspectives, because I think that it's so easy for people once you've made it, right?
Yeah.
Once you've made it, and once you can pretty much do whatever you want. It's kind of hard to stay focused, right? And this is the reason why I have to constantly keep having new goals and dreams, is so that I don't get derailed and I don't end up in a bad place, right? And I've got to constantly be having a positive mindset and all of that. And even I'm doing positive affirmations and things like that. These things are very, very powerful. Yeah.
No, and I appreciate you so much for like really opening up to people and really giving them a true perspective of who like you really are, and just your average reasonableness that can be so relatable to just the average American. Like you were mentioning that you were able, like a lot of people felt uncomfortable to give you a $500,000 home to list because they assume that you were this other person, when in reality you're just as like humbled as they are,
Right. No, and again, I mean, I'm not a snob. I'm not a cocky person.
At all.
I think that I'm a very, very down-to-earth, level-headed person. I want to be friends with everybody, as long as you're also open-minded as well.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really important about you.
I try not to get political and stuff with people either. I kind of let everybody
whatever.
I kind of let just people, make their own decision in life. Except for obviously close friends and family, then I'm gonna definitely be jumping on you.
No, but I mean, I think your advice is very sound, and
thank you so much. And it's been such a pleasure being here today. Thank you so much for having me, Liz.
No, thank you. This was an amazing conversation, and I just really wanted you to just, as a final note, detail your Instagram handle, how you could be contacted, and at the bottom of your screen, you can see his website that you are able to access if you have any inquiries in his real estate representation.
Yeah.
But if there's anything else you want to lay out to how people can contact you.
Yeah, guys. So I have a Twitter. I have an IG. You can follow me there. It's both of the same handle. It's at Dylan the Realtor. Dylan is spelled DYLAN. Dylan the Realtor, all one word. I should be the first thing that pops up when you do that. I do try to be posting as often as I can.
Thank you for that.
I do have a Facebook, but I already hit my 5,000 max.
But they can contact you if they want your representation through your website, and then from there you can just call, and then you'll have that.
Yeah, exactly. So
definitely don't want to
through
get
my
on
website, I actually do have a lead capture through my website, which is 𝑬𝒑𝒊𝒆𝒔.com. So I am representing obviously a lot of people in the entertainment industry, celebrities, athletes, that kind of thing. But again, those are not only the people that I represent. And I love helping first-time home buyers and people that are selling their first property, because I feel like I'm giving them a little extra special attention.
No, and it's greatly appreciated in today's market. So thank you again, Dylan. And
thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, website, and all the platforms hosting my podcast, as you will find it at www.elizabethcharnay.com. And please consider supporting me, and I really appreciate it. So thank you guys again for everything. And we'll see y'all soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.